How you doing everyone? Bada Bing here. I have returned with the WE HKG3 gas blowback battle rifle. If you tuned into my recent video on this rifle, you would have seen it develop a new fault, where it would shoot fully automatic while in semi mode. Of course fully auto is amazing fun, but we cannot have it running away like that. It's got to be addressed. I had a look at the trigger pack and spent a good amount of time fiddling and trying to recreate the issues with a clearer perspective. I had a few comments on my last video that said how terribly weak the internals are on WE gas blowbacks, and for the most part it's true. With that in mind, that means these components are totally ragged, right?
Wrong.
Looking at the stripped out parts, the hammer and sear are all in good shape. At most, there's only minor paint wear, so no rounded off edges and no marring or damage. These components are fine. The hammer's hard contact steel insert remains present, engaging the steel auto sear normally. There's no immediate cause for concern, they seem to be doing their jobs correctly. And the sole piece out of the entire fire control group which does look a bit shifty is the selector switch itself. Let's take a closer look at the trigger pack and see what's going on. Okay, now that we've got the trigger pack outside of the G3 lower, you can see the selector switch, it's pretty much in a central location within the trigger pack, so it's looking okay. So if I pull the trigger, take note of this rectangular piece here. It's kind of got rounded off edges. So if I pull the trigger, you can see that it stops just shy of the trigger pack, so it doesn't go all the way in, you see? It's just right on the edge, right like that. Right. Now let's prime the hammer. Okay. Pull the trigger and then trip the trip lever forward, and it's locked. The sear has been engaged by the hammer, so it's holding there, it's holding that shot. Alright, then there's a reset and drop the hammer, followed by the pull of the trigger, and it's supposed to be like that. Okay, so okay, trip lever forward, hammer's primed, ready to go, and break the shot. Okay, just as normal. But if you're holding the trigger down, alright, release the hammer. The auto sear has got a good hold of the hammer, it's not letting it go. And trip forward, and it's locked onto the sear. So it's given up the engagement of the hammer and given that priority to the sear, and that's what's holding the hammer in place. So then coming back forward on the trigger to reset, and it's locked. Perfect. Okay, now let's mess around with the selector switch here. So let's kind of leave it like that. You see, it's kind of riding over the top piece of the selector. See that? Now look at that triangle, the rectangular piece here. It's gone inside, up and inside the trigger pack, alright? So it's over travel. So if I prime the hammer and then hit the trip lever forward, it drops the hammer. I know you're not supposed to let the hammer drop like that, but for the purposes of this demonstration it's kind of got to be done. And finger off the trigger, and it's caught onto the sear. Alright, now holding onto the trigger, see? Not good. And it's all because, or as it seems to me, the selector switch right here, just allowing the trigger to over travel up and into the trigger pack, and then see, the sear is completely not supporting or nowhere near supporting the hammer. So let go of the hammer like that, see, nowhere near the engagement where it needs to be. So if I push forward on the trip lever, nowhere near it. Nowhere near it to catch it. Now going for another close-up. You got the sear just beneath the sear, the auto sear spring right there, and the over travel on the trigger is pushing it well out of the way of where it needs to be to engage the hammer. So prime the hammer, okay, and then the hammer is locked by the auto sear right in there. So that's what's holding the hammer at the moment. And then if I push forward on the trip lever, it's not even close. Drops the hammer. See? Do that again on this angle. Okay, there's the trip lever holding it in place. Forward, bang. Nowhere near it. So, with the G3 fully assembled, the selector switch is seated firmly. There's no middle ground or setting it a certain way for it to prevent the uncontrolled auto fire. Now, if I press the trigger only far enough to break the shot, it will not over travel, and the sear would be in its ideal position to function normally. That's not really a solution, so moving onwards, and this is where we move on to my solution. And it came from a very unlikely source. I'm talking about WE Tech's mortal enemy, the G3 series made by none other than VFC. But more specifically, as I don't actually own their G3A3, their PSG-1 gas blowback sniper rifle. Some time ago I picked up a real selector switch. Originally I had planned to use it in my HK SEF grip for my WE MP5K, thinking that it was for the polymer grip frame, but it turns out it was for the thinner steel G3 lower, so it ended up on the PSG, which was a drop-in fit. That left the original switch for my PSG-1 completely free to use. Well, here's what happened next. So the VFC selector switch, okay, rectangle piece is staying outside, right? Prime the hammer, pull the trigger, and it's caught. And it is a lot more stable within the trigger pack. It doesn't seem to want to go anywhere. Really is not going anywhere. So trigger, trip lever, well, I think it's done. This thing is cool, and it's back. The G3A3 is back, and with the help of a VFC component, which I think you will agree is priceless. My immediate problem with this is it's extremely difficult to rotate onto its fire modes. It's getting better over time, but I would likely file down the indexing lug so it rolls through easily. Beyond that, semi and fully automatic modes work as they should. Great result. The real selector switch is identical, in a sense where it's just as stiff to rotate, but it still fits the WE. And as it's a civilian HK91 selector, it doesn't accommodate the automatic setting, so it was quite lucky how it all worked out, with it going on my PSG-1. So this seems to have cured my problem. Perfect. And being made of steel too, there's no chance of it wearing down anytime soon. It might wreck the neighbouring parts, but I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. The white notch on the right side is just a bonus. And now we come to you. If you have one of these G3s and are experiencing this problem, I'm not saying this is the only fix for this problem, but it's one that's worked for me. So looking into a selector replacement might be a good call for you. Thanks for tuning in, boys and girls. If you keep seeing my videos in your recommended section on YouTube and have not yet subscribed, join me. And of course, if you'd like to donate to the channel, head over to buymeacoffee.com/badabing and help keep me caffeinated. Until next time, look after yourselves. Cheers.